Greetings, everyone, and welcome. You are in the zone, the BIZ Info Zone, and my name is Lynn Hawkins. I'm your host. I am the founder and dean of the P3 Academy of Social Entrepreneurship, and the zone is where you, the savvy social entrepreneur, can be in the space of learning how to better express your purpose, plan your next moves, and take your business into profits and your life into prosperity. I am so excited to welcome you here today. Thank you so much for joining us. My guest today is ready to talk about how you get your message out into the world in a big way, in a positive way, in an impactful way, and ramp up your profits. Because as a business owner, your prime responsibility is, in fact, to drive profits to your business. Now, what you do with those profits tell a lot about you. And we're going to talk about that as well. Today, my guest is Crum III. JV is an MBA and a Juris Doctor. He's a conscious business and life coach and a best-selling author of Conscious Millionaire, Grow Your Business by Making a Difference. And he's founder of the Conscious Millionaire Institute, sharing his views today on business success by traveling the Conscious Millionaire path. I'm so excited because JV has been this conscious entrepreneur in this space, heart doing and heart building of business for some years now. And he really got me thinking several years ago when I first met him that doing business is a mindset and it's more than income. And while I had been in the space of considering that, there was no one who was talking about it. He was. And so no further ado, I want to introduce you to and have you welcome our guest today, Mr. Crum III. JV, hi, welcome to the show.
Well, Lynn, I always love hanging out with you. And today is your birthday. I want to bring that up. Happy birthday, Lynn. It's so exciting to actually get to do a show with you on your birthday. I mean, this is really special.
Thank you. It's really special to me, too, because about 10 years ago, on my birthday, I made a conscious declaration that my heart's desire was to become a millionaire, a multimillionaire. And in doing so, do it for a lot of reasons. At the time I declared it, I wasn't quite sure what all those reasons were. But I'm a student of Tony Robbins and Brian Tracy and Jack Canfield and Marianne Williamson and all of these people who really helped impress upon me that it is truly about what you are doing. And in the doing, the money somehow magically shows up. But the thing, especially the thing that Brian Tracy said was, have a goal, have it written. And while I have kind of migrated from the hardness of goals, so to speak, into milestones, one of my milestones was to make my first million. And then I heard something that impacted me even more deeply. And that was the desire to do it, not so much for the money that you would have, but for who you would become. And I thought, oh my gosh, that began a journey for me that I am so happy to say brought me to a place of meeting people like you and others who are really doing this from a conscious standpoint, from a giving standpoint, and a heart standpoint. And I'm just so grateful that you're here sharing this with us on my birthday. Thank you.
Well, thank you for having me. I just want to jump in and say I'm so happy that you were talking about profits at the beginning, because one of the things that happens, I only coach conscious entrepreneurs and help them build 6- and 7-figure business and take the 7 figures to multiple 7 figures. And a lot of times I call it the money purpose wound. So maybe that's a great place to start. A lot of conscious people, and I've lived in spiritual communities, I've lived at a Buddhist monastery, I lived at Boulder and was involved with a lot of spiritual communities there, and I would have people say, oh, I'm living in abundance, but they didn't have the money to pay the rent. And I said, well, there's something severely wrong with that statement, because apparently their definition of abundance and mine has a big gap. And what I found was a lot of heart-based people who become entrepreneurs with great big visions, with big causes, with a higher purpose for their business. So they already have that piece. And I work on that piece with everybody because we got to fine tune it. It's such a critical part. But they have confused in their mind and their belief systems that it's okay to charge for the quote unquote their gifts. Because you and I have gifts. If you're listening today, you have gifts. And I believe those are our divine indicators of what we should be doing with our lives. It's kind of like, whether you say it's God, the universe, whatever word you want to use, it's kind of knocking on our door and saying, hello, I bestowed you with these certain gifts you came to earth with. And I meant for you to use them as your path to livelihood. And you've confused things and thought it was not okay to charge for them. And I meant for you to charge for them. I meant for this to be a way that you were going to do good in the world and be able to support your family, support your life, support the causes that you believe in. So I call it the money purpose wound, that there's a wound literally in our belief systems that says it's not okay to charge for that money, to charge for our gifts. Or if we do, well, we should just charge a little bit, not too much. I mean, like maybe we could charge $50 an hour, but we could never charge $500. And we certainly couldn't even entertain charging $5,000. Yes, we know there's somebody that's doing that, but they're probably wrong. They're probably evil. They're probably just using people. You know, those are the little stories we're going to make up because we're not okay with actually receiving. And we really need to deal with that right up front. There's no way to become and sustain being a millionaire unless you're going to deal with the part of you that's not letting it in. And that really comes to heart. And when you own a business, if you're right now owning a business and you're struggling or you're not making the kind of money that you want to make, it may be that the systems and marketing aren't clear. However, inside of you, I can guarantee you there's part of you that's not clear and not aligned with this use your gifts in order to provide value. And when you provide value, in order to keep balance in the world, it's perfectly natural that you receive value back. And so the profit you make in your business, if you're consciously aligned with a higher purpose, I guarantee you that that profit number is your best indicator of how much value you're adding to the world if you're allowing the value to come back in. And if you don't allow the value to come back in, you're not in a position to expand your business, and you're really not serving yourself or the world properly because you're not allowing yourself to reach as many people as you could. We're all on earth at a very unique time. And about 3 months ago, I sat down. I want to share this story because there's a number, and I want to challenge you today to choose your number. Now, this is going to be a different number than you see on the advertisements on television. It's the, which is all about what's your number for retirement. No, I want you to choose the number of people you're going to positively impact on earth, and then build your business and life plan so that that becomes the ultimate indicator of value that you've actually brought. And I sat down and I looked at, I have the Conscious Millionaire Institute. I've got a global nonprofit. We plan to be in 160 countries. We're over 10 countries right now, the Conscious World Foundation, where we help 18 to 25-year-olds who are creating projects to uplift humanity. And I really thought about it for a day, and I said, my number is 1 billion. It's not that I want $1 billion. My number for money is 100 million. I'm very clear. I put it out and I say it all the time because I'm not afraid I'm not going to get there. What I want to do is plant the seed so that all the people who are attracted to that will help me get there while I help them get to their number, right? So we all get there to the place we want to go. And I have good reasons for that 100 million. It's not that I want to buy a 200-foot yacht. I want to have a huge ability to reach out to other people who have that same kind of money and say, Jack, I'm going to write $1 million to this nonprofit that's a startup. Will you write $1 million also? And we both know the money's coming in again next month because we've got a system set up that creates that automatic cash flow. And therefore, we're in a position to be custodians of our money, right? And therefore, we can choose based on how we feel led of how we can really make significant differences, because all of us today listening to that can imagine that if you find a startup nonprofit that's really doing some good, they've gotten off the ground, but if they had an extra $2 million when right now they've got 50,000, imagine what they could do if they've got a big vision and they've got a plan to go there. So you're in a position to really make great differences with your money. But it all starts back with understanding that you've got gifts and you're here to use those gifts to create a major difference, a positive impact in other people's lives, and for them to pay you for that. And that's the exchange of value. And that's how you create, at the core, you create your profit in your business.
That is well said, very well said. And I truly love the fact that you've brought attention to something that I teach a lot of as well, the value to value exchange. And we have to start with first valuing ourselves and really being in alignment with the value that we're bringing to the world. There are so many of us, like you said, that value the work that we bring to the world, but we have less of a value stance of our own.
We're not comfortable because there's some belief in us that says it's not okay to receive that money. And it probably came out of our childhood. I don't know about you, Lynn. I grew up in a family that was very financially challenged in a little town of 300 or 400 people. Right? Where, how small was it? The post office was a 10 by 10 area in the back of the hardware store. Right? And there weren't but about 6 or 7 stores, right? So we had a hardware store, we had a drugstore, we could actually go get ice cream. I mean, it was really that old fashioned it's like something out of a movie actually. But it was on a 4 by 5 mile lake, and I was on the swim team, and I skied and I fished with a cane pole, mind you, and worms for bass and brim, and then we would eat those at night. I mean, that's the life we lived. And that's how I grew up. It almost sounds like Huckleberry Finn. You've got to go back and read Huckleberry Finn. But it was a great life. However, at 5, I decided I wasn't going to live in this kind of financially challenged. It was easy for me to understand because I came from a very strict conservative family, and at the time, I didn't like that. Now I look back and I think it's why I'm successful, because I learned discipline. I didn't even know there was such a thing. I could argue with my parents not to make the bed or take out the trash, right? Or wash the car or mow the lawn. Like, these were not options in my household. But then I look back and I go, that's not a bad thing. However, I thought something was very wrong when we went to the grocery store, and as a little boy, what did I want? I wanted a candy bar. But I knew by 5 not to ask for it. Not only was I going to get reprimanded, it wasn't on the list, but I wasn't going to get it anyway. So they had already reprimanded it out of me. And that was a good thing, because that was the impetus for me one day at 5 saying, when I grow up, I'm going to be a millionaire. Because I really sat around and I said, well, what's going on here? My parents are smart. We don't have any money. And I'm tired of living this way. I mean, at 5, I was already fed up, right? I have a very short fuse for inconvenience. So at 5, it had already said, I'm done. I am done. This is not my future. I don't know what's going on here, but I'm not living like this. And by 25, I'd made that first million, had a 4-story luxury townhouse, with a Mercedes on the water. That dream had come true. But it only became true because I planted the seed at 5. And today, I want you to plant seeds if you're listening to this. And I want you to ask yourself, how many people on earth do I want to impact? Now, I want you to know that I don't think that billion number is crazy. And here's why. Here's my logic, because I sat there and I said, okay, wait, that's kind of a big number, right? So I argued with myself. I said, no, you can't do that. And I said, wait. Look at all the things that have happened in the last 10 years on the internet, because that's how we're going to do it. We're going to do it through leverage, all of us, right? And the Facebooks and the LinkedIns and the Twitters, these didn't even exist, and none of us know what kind of platforms are going to exist just 2 years from now. And you know why we don't know? Because they haven't even been implanted in the minds of the people who will create them, right? They don't yet even exist as a thought. Some of the most profound things that will happen, that's how fast change is happening. So we certainly don't know 5 years from now. And 10 years from now, it could be 100 times the speed of what is going on today. And there are going to be platforms where we can put out one message that will make a positive difference, and all of a sudden 100 million people see it in 30 days. I mean, this is going to happen, and it's going to happen quickly. It's going to happen very quickly. So it's really about leverage. So what you were asking yourself, how many people do I want to positively impact? You're really asking yourself, how well do I want to learn how to play the leverage game? And by the way, the leverage game is how you make millions of dollars. You don't make millions of dollars one-to-one.
All yourself.
No, this is not going to happen. This is not going to happen. It's one to many, and then those many impacting many, right? It's all about leverage is at the core of all this. And we are living in the most leveraged of all times, and it's only speeding up at a logarithmic, it's not arithmetic, it's not a straight line, it's a curved line like that. It's just going faster and faster and faster every day. Not every month, not every year. Every day it's getting faster. So the opportunity is at hand for each and every one of us to make a powerful difference with our lives. And I believe we're all on earth, not by accident at this particular moment in time. I think we're all on earth to impact one another in a positive way, to raise the consciousness, to uplift each other, and to create commerce in a new way, because the old, what I call first stage capitalism, was all about, let's just look at the bottom line. We don't care how you got there. That's how we get all the messes on Wall Street, right? All the unethical things, the 2008, 2009 collapse. When you've got, let's call it out, I don't mind calling it out, when you've got companies that are literally selling derivatives, betting against their own clients, right? Yep. And Goldman Sachs was doing that. That's a fact. That's what they were doing. And all of this brought about massive collapse. And was any of that designed to uplift one human being? No. It was to make a few people very, very wealthy, but they themselves didn't get uplifted. Nothing of real long-term conscious value came out of that, and all the billions that were made on a short term, and then many of them just lost very quickly. What we're talking about, I call it second stage capitalism. It's all about adding massive value, intrinsic value. Not convincing somebody to buy what we call the widget just because we can come up with a good marketing message, but coming up with a good marketing message that influences somebody to buy something that's going to uplift them and their life will be better. And all of us on this today, everybody who's listening is of that mindset, of that heart space. And it's about learning how to do commerce in a new way by taking the best of the old approaches, which is you've got to have good systems. You've got to have good marketing. You've got to know how to close a lead. But doing it all with honesty, with integrity, and with the purpose of uplifting, not just putting money in the bank. That's what we're all called to do today. And it's a big experiment where we're working with models. And that's why I created Conscious Millionaire, to provide a path that would have all the pieces in it so that conscious entrepreneurs would have a place they could go and learn everything they need to learn in order to build a 6- and 7-figure business that allows them to get their message out there and make their difference in the world while being financially free.
I love it. This is the conversation that I get into and stay in for the long term.
Well, and it is like you say, Lynn, it is a long-term shift in our consciousness.
Are you saying something?
Oh, yes. I was saying it is a long-term shift in our consciousness. Because we're really talking, at the core of this, we're really talking about conscious evolution. We've had biological evolution, but I think the whole next stage of human development is conscious evolution.
I agree. And speak to that for a bit, because, you know, when the question comes up, as a matter of fact, one of our listeners, one of our viewers, Sunita Pandit, is asking just this question. What do you think keeps people from even considering joining with others, and also not considering the ideal business structures of not just network marketing, but of joint venture partnering, of the leveraging that we're talking about? And I agree, it's the evolution of the mindset from the me, I have to do it myself, I can do it myself. Yeah, you probably can, but it's going to take you so much longer. And I don't want anybody to mess with me, get in there, you know, all of this other stuff that is lower level thinking. It's thinking of the past. And it's actually part of the corporate stuff that you were talking about that got our nation into trouble, that really impacted all of us in the trickle-down effect.
Well, and it's scarcity, and at the core of scarcity is fear. Because in our ego, it's really conscious development is also ego development. And a lot is said from Eastern perspectives that sometimes I don't agree with, that the whole point is to get rid of our ego. I don't agree with that at all. I think that ego is drive. Ego is drive. We need that egoic drive. When we have a great vision and we're driven to bring that vision to reality, that's an ego-driven accomplishment. What it is that is really being talked about is the unhealthy ego that is confused into thinking that we're actually separate as a profound reality, that that's the deep reality. And if we think we're separate, then it is all about my house and my car and my vacation and my bank account and the hell with everybody else, because all that matters is me. So if we have that confusion, and it's really about getting a taste, and that's why I went and lived at the Buddhist monastery for 7 weeks just to learn meditation. And what I began to taste that I think you can only get through that kind of experience. I'm doing Qigong now. You can get it through Qigong, but it's these meditative, contemplative, Eastern practices that I think are best at giving us a taste of the profound, higher truth that our egos are one. Now, once we get that experientially, not just intellectually, because intellectually it's easy to go create another argument, right? But when we get it experientially, we get it in our heart as well. And now it's not just an idea that sounds good. Now it's an experience that's real for us. And that's why I think an ongoing meditation practice is a critical part to our evolution individually, each of us as human beings and collectively. That I think this is one of the only ways that we can, as a collective whole, move forward, that each person on a regular basis is meditating so that they're clearing their mind, focusing their mind, and opening themselves up to have that experience that we call between the gap, where we start to understand and see that gap, and we experience the oneness. And once you start to experience the oneness, your vision changes and your drive changes. But see, now we understand that ego is in service of the evolution of our consciousness, not at odds with it. That they all fit together in an alignment when they're aligned with higher purpose. And that higher purpose, by that I mean something very concrete. That is that big reason, that why, that difference, that you are driven, as I call it, wild horses couldn't stop me, because I know I'm on my divine path. I know that I'm answering my calling. I know that what I'm doing is going to improve life on earth. And I know that that is the greatest measure of my purpose on life, is that when I get to the end, my question is, how much change did I create? Did I create change that mattered? Or did I not? And if I didn't, it doesn't matter what the trappings were. And if I did, it'll be great, whatever the trappings were. But what will matter is the difference that I made. That, I think, is the new way of looking at life and valuing our lives, as opposed to this old way that says, how big was the house? Now, I'm not against big houses. I don't want to, in any way. I'm living in a big loft. You see some of my art behind me. I live well. But I live well because all this abundance around me nourishes my soul. My place is like an art gallery because I like living in the center of an art gallery. I like being in an environment that is enriching to me, that brings beauty into my life because it uplifts my soul. I love equally being in nature because nature uplifts my soul, especially when I'm around water. For me, water, a stream, the ocean, a lake, it doesn't matter. If it's water, it can be frozen, it can be running, just give me some water, right? I'm pretty happy, right? That's why I love winters where there's snow, because I go, oh my gosh, the water is everywhere. Because to me, it's that water that really matters. But for somebody else, it might be the fire. It might be the tree. It might be the earth itself, the rocks. I love all of that, especially when it all comes together. These are ways in which we can enrich ourselves and help ourselves move forward on our own path. But it's by joining with others, as you're talking about, Lynn, being in a collective group. That's why it's so critical to be in groups today of like-minded people, and to avoid groups. And I'm going to say that I actively avoid groups of people that are thinking first stage capitalism. I don't want anything to do with those groups because they're not about the cause I'm about. And really the energetics bring me down rather than uplifting me. If the only conversation is about how much money and how do I get more money out of people, I'm going to get kind of bored pretty quickly. If the conversation is about how do I maximize my profits by going out there and really making a difference that matters, I'm pretty excited.
I am as well. And I loved how you said that. You know, it was going to actually bring me to something that I've been teaching of late, and that's how to say no, how to recognize that someone isn't one of the people that is going to uplift you, much less allow you to help uplift them, and how to say no. What's your philosophy on, and how do you teach this art of saying no? No, thank you.
Yeah,
And
no is critical, because no is the core of self-discipline, isn't it?
yes,
you know,
it is.
I now launched a new podcast, as you know. It's the Conscious Millionaire Health Reality Podcast. And part of the reality—
Great podcast. I love
thank you
it.
so much. Thank you so much. We're just in our third week, but it's doing phenomenally well. We've already been number 3 in new and noteworthy. And so it's great that the world's embracing this as well. It's really asking the question of how do we live consciously? How, as entrepreneurs who are so busy, where our life is kind of like a roller coaster, how do we get health and fitness? And I want to be really clear. I'm losing 100 pounds because I gained it when my dad died. But just because you're at your ideal weight doesn't mean you're healthy at all. And I think there's a real misunderstanding in our society. And I think it comes out of our admiration for these beautiful bodies, quote unquote. And they are beautiful bodies that are the models that, by the way, don't even look like that because they paintbrush it so much, right? So nobody even actually looks like that. But as a work of art, they're beautiful. As a work of art, they're beautiful, right? And then we confuse that with healthy, when the truth is most of those models have starved themselves and are probably totally unhealthy. If you did a blood test and looked at how was their blood really working, no, probably not a healthy body. So I'm talking about true health, mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual health is what we all need. And I'm calling that the optimized person. We need to optimize ourselves so that we can optimize our contribution and optimize our financial success. And what I figured out for myself was I looked at, after gaining the 100 pounds and when I'd been at 183, working out 9 hours a week, so I had, and living a healthy diet and doing cleanses and all that. So I had a laboratory for myself. And I found that I was getting sick a lot, that I was, didn't have the energy that I had, that I was needing more sleep, that I was not in any way able to perform and achieve at the same level, and that I was getting tired out, and I'm a pretty high energy person. And I realized, wait a minute, this isn't something you can just kind of put under the carpet and yeah, you gained 100 pounds and okay, so, business people didn't seem to mind, but I'm going, yeah, but I don't like looking in the mirror, but I was still busy. And then I said, wait a minute, this is not working at all. You're not living your optimal self. And there's no way that we can achieve our optimal purpose on earth unless we are. And I got it by getting so far off the Richter scale that it created a really strong understanding in me how critical, even if you're 20 pounds off the Richter scale and you're always putting unhealthy food in your body, you are not preparing yourself today and tomorrow to be your optimal performer in the world, to live your purpose fully, to make the level of financial success that you deserve and that your family needs and that you're going to need in order to retire someday, right?
You're right.
And I realized that the optimal human being, the optimal entrepreneur must be healthy and fit. It's not an option. And I only figured that out a few months ago, and then I didn't waste much time about putting together a podcast, because I said, if I'm going to go through this, and I know my fellow entrepreneurs on one level or not are going through some version of it, let's all have a conversation. So I've even started 30-day, we're doing right now our first 30-day challenge, and we're going to repeatedly have 30-day challenges where audience members can join in and begin to optimize their body, optimize their mind, their spirit, and who they are so that they can become the optimal entrepreneur who's consciously moving forward in life. And we're doing that all through conscious. Like everything I'm doing is a change in diet, using all kinds of herbs, all kinds of supplements. There's not one pharmaceutical. I'm not knocking that sometimes you need a pharmaceutical. I happen to personally want to avoid them in any way that I can. because there's side effects. They're doing things to my body that I don't want to have done. I would rather get there through a natural course, and the body's designed to heal. So I have several people I'm working with to help me heal my body naturally through the foods and the supplements and the herbs that I put in my body.
I love it. I am in that exact same space. And I don't know if you know that part of my background. For 18 years, I was a fitness instructor. And
I did not know that. I did not know that.
Yeah.
That's the secret to your beauty.
I taught everything from kids aerobics to geriatrics aerobics, and in between, high impact, low impact, kickboxing. My favorite was kickboxing, of the discipline that you talk about, a lot more free flow. And then I was also a fitness trainer in the weight room and what have you, not only getting trained, but training others as well. And one of the things that I always talked about was your body will tell you the right foods to eat. And now that they've come out with the studies that, you know, based on your DNA or your desire to correct your DNA to a healthier DNA, there are foods that you can eat, and the natural thing. I've never been one to want to take more than a bare aspirin, and don't unless there is some real need for something else.
Right.
But it too is back to what you're talking about, starts in that mindset area. Mind, body, spirit. It's an alignment that from the heart gets its electricity. And from the mind really taps into the synergy between them all, allowing them all to play together. And I just love that. I love the podcast. I've posted in the event page the link to get to your website, to the podcast, because it truly is a space that, especially for hardworking entrepreneurs who are on that journey to being more conscious entrepreneurs, this is a piece that is the first piece that they will flush down the toilet, kick out the door, is their health. They're taking care of themselves when it should be the first place that we start. And lots of reasons for it, no judgment around it. It's really just about recognizing that if you are put here for a reason, let's help ourselves to be here, to fulfill. And looking at it and participating in things like what you're doing. And I commend you for it, because doing it for ourselves is one thing, but when we're including others in it, it increases our level of self-accountability, discipline, the fun that we can have. And
absolutely.
I love that about that podcast, as well as the Conscious Millionaire business podcast that you have. You've got two of the most powerful podcasts on iTunes these days. And I'm very proud to say that I've been there and I've listened to these. I've even been on there. I was sharing with a group just yesterday what an amazing birthday present. But to get this email from you saying that the interview that I did on your podcast was one of the best performing or highest downloads, and you were giving me another opportunity to really promote it, to have more downloads. And it truly is the information that we're delivering that carries the energy and the power when it's coming from our hearts.
And I agree. And, you know, I want to say that I am so happy with the success, because if somebody hasn't done this, we've been recording for a year now, and on September 16th, our first podcast will have been out for a year. And at the end of 10 months, we had 1.5 million downloads in 150 countries. And this last week's, you know, there's well over 250,000 podcasts out there. And this last week, for the first time, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, 3 days in a row, we were number 30 out of all the business podcasts for 3 straight days. And, you know, it really, when you put your heart and your energy into something, it's rewarding to see that it's having value, because the only reason that's true is that people are getting value out of it. I mean, it's impossible for that number to be happening otherwise, because this last week, you know, 2 different days, we hit all-time highs, and we're doing the same marketing. And so this tells me one of the things I do on the show, I'm going to share this with you, because please take and use it, right? In any way you can in your business, is that after they've had about 20 minutes of the podcast, so they've got a good feel, I take a moment and I congratulate everybody for showing up and listening to it, and then ask them, because we want to make a big impact, will you tell one other entrepreneur today? Well, it's apparent that that must be going on, because that's the big shift. I made that shift about a month ago, and it's apparently paying off in getting more listeners and spreading the word to more people, because I'm just literally saying, hey, basically you got value out of this. I'm congratulating you, because it really is something to be proud of when you show up day after day or 5 days a week and listen to something. It says it has value for you, but you're valuing yourself for showing up. And then just ask people for what you want. Just tell one person. I very specifically instructed that, so it's an easy one step. Don't go and ask them to tell 100 people, because now you're going to get 0, right? I just say, will you tell one other entrepreneur today about the Conscious Millionaire podcast? And that's the one marketing shift I made about 30 days ago, and it's reaching new heights over and over again.
I like that.
Yeah, so it's really just asking, but ask for a simple step. Make it easy, because I think we're living in a world of information overload. We're living in a world where people are asking so much. Oh, will you do this, 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 this? Forget it. Nobody's doing anything, right? They're not going to do that. They're not. And it's not because they don't want to, but 10 minutes from now, something else is impacting them. But if you ask for one simple thing from your community and you've given them great value first, right? And it's not manipulative. You're just straightforward. We want to make a big impact in the world. The only way to do that is more people hear about this, so that we can help them for free learn how to build their business, right? There's a great value proposition there, right? We're not asking them to go sell something for us. We're saying, hey, this is great value. Day after day, we're having incredible people like Lynn Hawkins on the show, and it's bringing great interviews. Someone could go from start to a very successful business if they were just to go listen to, we're going to be 250 episodes on August 11th. I only realized that about 3 days ago. You're so busy recording the show. I record a couple of days a week now with the 2 shows. And I went, wow, we're going to have, and just yesterday I did the recordings for that. I had John Gray, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. And he's going to be the 250th show. And he's also on the health show. And he's a great person. Yes, such powerful information. And it's wonderful to be able to meet people like you, to be able to meet like John Gray. It's one of the personally super, super rewarding things is I have built so many business relationships with people who were guests on the podcast, or I've been guests on their podcast. It's a wonderful world. And if you have a message to get out there, go get yourself on some podcasts, because it's one of the fastest ways to really let people know about what you're doing.
That's amazing. It really is. And I am right now working on moving the BIZ Info Zone shows into podcast formats so that we can start building and getting our message out in that arena as well. And, JV, it makes me think about, this audience is an audience of mainly social entrepreneurs. They are business builders who want to build business with the consciousness around how am I in the work that I do making a bigger difference in the world. And you recently launched the Conscious Millionaire Foundation and Conscious World Foundation, and how, tell us the story behind how that came to you and how you've moved it from idea into planning and strategy and then into implementation. And now you're in 10 countries with a dream to go to over 100. So tell us that
160. I actually am a numbers guy, so I got my number very early on. I go, oh, we're going to be in 160 countries, and we will. My personal joke, I make a lot of jokes about life, is that if you're much of a traveler, then you probably know about the Century Club. I've been to 32 countries. I kind of feel like I'm behind, in little ways. But the Century Club, the way you get in is you've been to 100 countries, right? Then it turns out that there's a gold level. I was talking to someone the other day on my show, and he's a travel photographer, and he's been to 170 countries. And I think it was either 160 or 175. It's somewhere in that level. There's another whole level of it. So I've just been saying, well, by visiting all the countries that my nonprofit's in, I'll make it to my 100 countries and more, right? Mm-hmm. But I got the vision of conscious world, but kind of the way the universe, it's like a little joke we have running with ourselves. I've decided, I didn't create it. I think they created it. Whoever they is, right? So yeah, whoever they is, so I get this inspiration for conscious world, but they don't bother to tell me what it's going to be. So I kind of had to play around with it. So I created a press out of it. So my book, Conscious Millionaire, came out of the Conscious World Press. And then I finally realized, I want to do a nonprofit because it'll allow me to really get out there and do work in a way that you don't do through a for-profit, right? And I gotta say, because I am trained and licensed as a tax attorney, I also thought about the tax implications that I can now, in various ways, put 20, 30% of what I make ultimately into Conscious World to fund it, to help fund it. So why would I give that money? Just to be straightforward, nothing the government can do because I say this, why would I give it to the government when they're going to do all kinds of wasteful things, inefficiently, even when they're doing things I agree with, when I could take that money and channel it into an outcome that's going to be an organization that's very efficiently run, that I'll never get a penny from, I'll put money into, and I can run that organization to make a big difference in the world. And then I really spent a lot of time developing, what did I want to do? Did I want to do something with the environment? Did I, what was it that I wanted to do? So I brainstormed and, whiteboarded. So it wasn't instant. It would be nice if you could say, oh, one day I had this idea and the next day it was a 501c3. No, in my case, it was very organic. And I kept going, okay, so what's it supposed to be? And then I'd meditate. And I finally came, and then it had many iterations once I decided I wanted to work with youth. First, I thought I wanted to work with K through 6. And then it finally ended up 18 to 25-year-olds because I realized I wanted to focus on leadership and conscious leadership. And I wanted to train those who were already inclined to go in that direction and give them a place that they would get the training they needed, in part by creating projects so they learn how, because I like leadership that's about action. Leadership that's just about ideas doesn't do anything. Great mayors and great governors of states create initiatives. Great leaders of nonprofits create initiatives. Great leaders in education create initiatives. So in kind of an entrepreneurial way, I said, I want to find the youth that are attracted to being kind of entrepreneurial about this, to creating projects, to creating change. And this is how they're oriented. And then let's give them more skills. So we've started with, and we just closed our application process. We had over 3,300 youth from around the world. And I want to give a shout out and thank Google Grants and you for letting me know about Google Grants, because we have a Google grant that gives us $10,000 every month for our advertising. And that made all the difference, is that we could all of a sudden start reaching more people on a daily basis. And so we had 3,300 people come in and begin that application process for a $5,000 scholarship. And I made the amount, which I'm donating to it, I made the amount large enough that it would attract people. And that was my intention. And from here, we're going to move into doing training webinars, where we'll set up webinars that are kind of automated webinars and drive youth that are interested in doing projects, and then teach them from the start, how do you do a project? And then build leadership components into that. So it doesn't matter what area of life they go into. They may go into politics, they may go into education, they may go into medicine, whatever area they want to go in. But we want to equip them with a belief system that you, others in the world need, that we need to arrange life so that all of us are winning together, and that there are two critical pieces to that. Each person on earth must take responsibility for their lives. As I say, this is not the entitlement program, because that's not my view, and I'm very clear about that. This is the self-responsibility program, yes. And there are two pieces. Yep, I'm responsible for my life. I've yet to see anybody who's successful who doesn't believe that, and I'm equally responsible for contributing to the world. It's those two responsibilities brought together with what I call the triple win, that I want to arrange my life and arrange the things I do so that myself, others, and the world are all winning together. Because I think that's critical to this new conscious world we want to create.
It is. It truly is. And JV, tell us, has the initiative launched? Where are you in it?
Yeah.
Are there
We've
young
had,
people that can apply?
Yeah, well, the application for this year ended on June 30th. And so right now, we're actually in the process. Actually, I have my assistant today printing out the applications, and we're having a meeting in about a week, and we're going to go through them and put them into different stacks with criteria. And that criteria was given to the applicants to begin with, and begin the evaluation process to initially get it down to 20. And then we're going to get it down to 10. So there'll be 10 finalists who will get awards. They'll get certificates. They'll get various prizes. They'll all be interviewed. And then those interviews are going to be broadcast this fall when we're going to have our official first Global Conscious World Day. So the initial, this is one of the things we've had to learn. So I'm going to share this with you in case it's called lean design, because I said, wait a minute, I had nine initiatives I came up with. I said, wait a minute, I can't do 9 initiatives. It only took me a couple of months to figure that out. Not all at one time, right? So I'm a guy with great visions, but I had to lean it out. And so now we're looking at, let's do 2 or 3 initiatives over the next 18 months, repeat them and get good at them. So we're doing the scholarship program, we're doing the Conscious World Day, and then we're doing an automated training program to teach youth how to create those projects. So next year when we have applicants, they will have had an opportunity to go through a training program and time to create their project. So they don't have to go through the training program, but we want to add that dimension. So we ended up having to scale and say, in 18 months, what can we really accomplish well? Well, the second time we go through the application process, we will have learned a great deal from the first time of how to even do it, of how to even structure the emails, of how maybe we want to change the application. So we have, this is kind of like beta year, right? And that's the way you do it with everything, And we're doing the first Conscious World Global Day, and the second year, by the fall of 2016, it'll probably look very different than the first year, because we will have learned and we will have built more contacts. And once you start, here's what I've learned, you put out something like I did, the podcast, it didn't exist. And then on September 16th last year, it did exist. And it has grown like wildfire. And it has brought all kinds of opportunities along with it for the company, for us getting our message out, for connecting, for so many people I've connected with. Like, I'm on conferences now. I'm speaking tomorrow in Fort Worth. I'm doing a TEDx type talk titled Create Change That Matters. And so all these opportunities are coming out really because of the podcast and how it's connecting me and Conscious Millionaire to the rest of the world. And so by just taking something and say, I'm going to do it. So I've already told my staff, what's most important about the first Conscious World Day, and I want you to hear this and think about it in terms of your own business or your own causes. So if you're listening today, I don't think it's an accident. You're supposed to hear what I'm going to say, is that it happened. The most important thing isn't the size. The most important thing is that it happened, because once it happened once, you've got the seed in the ground. And now the tree's begun to grow. And now when I'm on lots of media, I can now talk about it and say, we had the first Conscious World Day and we're planning for the second one. Now, what happens in life is once you've put something down in the ground, most people don't plant the seeds. That's the problem. But those of us who are called to lead, if we'll plant the seeds, then people will rally around them. Right? Because I have endless people wanting to be on my podcast. Why? Because it's highly successful. Why is it highly successful? Because I have great guests and we put the word out. I mean, it's all builds on itself. So I said, what's most important is that we figure out how to do a global Conscious World Day on the internet. It happened once, and now we build. I said, we don't have to shoot off fireworks. Next year we'll shoot off fireworks. This year we plant the seed. And I think it's really important in building your business that you also realize, get a small product lean out there. It's better to have a product out there next week than 5 months from now, because now you get to experiment and find out what's working, and you get feedback. And just the process of doing it, you learn so much that you're not going to learn living on paper. We learn through experience. Paper is not where we really learn. We diagram stuff out, and you need to do that. And then you do it and you find out a lot of that was wrong, but you're not going to find out what parts were wrong or what needs to change until you actually do it. You've got to do it. And the quicker you do it, the quicker you'll get that feedback and the faster you're going to grow.
You're so right. I so love that. You totally took us from the idea through the plan and the strategy, the things that came to you because you were in that process, and the implementation, which also opened more doors and brought more opportunities to you. As far as the program. And it is a great strategy about how to do the first one. Do the first one, set it up and see what happens. Check your metrics, figure out, all the way along, figure out what you need to tweak while you can tweak it. And then certainly once it's been completed, you want to look and debrief and outline the successes. Did you meet your outcomes? Did you not meet your outcomes? Did you meet them sort of, maybe halfway? And it's not until you actually look at that do you understand that completely. And I think that that is so key if you are building with sustainability in mind
Right,
for the
absolutely.
long term.
Yeah, you can't build anything till you start. And I really believe in the principles of lean design. I built a whole program around it called Business Accelerator Program. It's built on lean design, teaching entrepreneurs how to build a six-figure business through lean design. The faster you get going with the least amount, less is in your favor, more is working against you. And the thing is, I think one of the biggest failures, and I've done it myself, that's how I know, by the way, this is something I just read in the book, is trying to do too much early. Do too little and let it grow faster. Because you can always add in. But if you're so busy building the empire rather than getting the empire growing, you're never going to get the empire.
Absolutely. And JV, I just want to say thank you. This information has been very on time, very pointed and poignant and very profound, because a lot of people who, even as part of this audience, are wondering how we do these things. And you've just broken down the phases of how in order to be successful or more successful at it. And I really appreciate that. And I want our audience to know, and JV said this so eloquently, thank you for being here with us today and coming back over and over to the BIZ Info Zone, because you know that this is we're delivering value, you're getting value, and that is what brings you back. And I am so grateful for that. I'm so grateful for your being here to share today with me on my birthday with JV Crum. And I'd like to invite you to, in the right-hand corner of the screen there, you see that YouTube button. When we're done, click that YouTube button, subscribe to the Skyhawk Enterprises and the P3 Academy's YouTube channel, and then share that with one other entrepreneur. Thanks, JV.
Well, thank you for doing that. And I want to congratulate you on having such a great show, and congratulate everybody who listens to this for showing up for yourself, because that's what you did.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. I want to let everyone know how you can connect with JV Crum. I put in the event page, and it will go on the YouTube page as well, the link to get to JV's webpage so that you can connect in the business podcast as well as the health podcast. And you just want to go to consciousmillionaire.com and you will find it all there. JV,
yeah, just look under the podcast tab and you'll see both the business coaching podcast and the health reality podcast. They're right there. The players are there. You can listen to all of the shows.
And I want you to know too that JV's got an amazing gift there for you too. And I want you to do this. Take a look around and see if you can find it. It's a resource guide, and it's there for you to download and really get into JV's world, because if you're intending to make a difference, we're all difference makers. Even if you don't decide not to do something, you're going to make a difference there as well. But we're looking at making a positive difference and making a positive impact in the world. So connect with more in the BIZ Info Zone show. Share the show through the YouTube channel. Share this show with JV Crum. It's one of the best, I have to admit, that I've done. maybe because it's my birthday and because JV's been here with me, but just, join us. Come back again. We're here every week, every Thursday, 2 to 3 p.m. Eastern time. And I love you for being here. JV, any parting words for our audience?
Yes, I want you to listen today for your calling, and I want you to think about what is that number for you. How many people, before you leave the planet, do you want to positively impact? And I want you to think big, realizing that once you choose that number, you're going to begin to figure out how you fill in all the blanks, because the answer is all going to be about leverage. It's about figuring out who you're here to positively impact and what kind of leverage do you need to learn to use, and realizing that more leverage is coming along to benefit you, to align with your purpose. So think of a big number, one that really inspires you, that feels right for you, and then congratulate yourself in advance for having accomplished that, because you will. You will if you dedicate your life to that.
Beautiful, beautifully said. Thank you so much to our audience. I am so grateful that you've been here with us today. Join us here again next week for another great show. I'm Lynn Hawkins, your host, and it's my birthday, and I'm going to celebrate now.
Oh, I know. I'm so excited. I'm so excited.
My grandson's taking me to lunch.
Wow. Have a great time.
Thank you. And thanks, everybody, for joining us today. We'll see you back here again next week. Bye for now.